The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to Behind the Law. Great show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about personal injury. Let me ask you this question. Do you know the answer? If you have an accident, but it's minor, should you call the police? Also, all things probate and how to avoid probate. I will do it with Makaila Nichols, as always. Hello, Makaila. How are you?
Good.
You are the voice of the audience at home. I am a lawyer. You are not. You're going to ask any question that you think they might have at home. Fair enough?
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Did you know that? Did you know that? What do you think? Let me ask you a question.
About
if you
what?
have an accident and it's just minor, should you call the police? I don't think anyone knows the answer to that.
I didn't, but I think my answer would be yes, but I don't know. I guess it depends.
And also, I love the fact that we're going to avoid having to pay $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month for your mom and dad if they have to go to a nursing home. I think it's an important show.
Yeah, that's really expensive.
It's expensive. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
It is.
After taxes as well. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, here's what we're going to do. A very short break. When we return, you have an accident. Do you call the police every time? As Behind the Law continues.
Managing your investment property is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Sign up at GoRent123.com. 2. Let Greater Orlando Realty handle everything for you when it comes to managing your property. From qualifying tenants to collecting rent, processing maintenance requests, and everything in between. 3. Sit back, relax, and count all that money you're making. Earning passive income on your property is as easy as 1, 2, 3 with Greater Orlando Realty. Visit GoRent123.com today.
Welcome back to the show. Very happy to be joined by repeat visitor, our official PI guy here, Michael Mills. Mike, how are you, bud?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. We see all of these signs on the interstate, the billboards that say, I got $1 million, I got $500,000. And we somewhat glorify, I think, these personal injury cases. I think most people really don't want to have an accident. But when they do have an accident, they do need to get compensated. And I think that beginning part of the case is very, very important. When you start building that case to maximize the value of the case, what do you do in your office to really help maximize the value of these personal injury cases for your clients?
Well, actually it starts before they even call or before they even get to my office. And there's 5 things that I recommend that folks do right after they've been involved in an accident. And it can tremendously help their attorney, whoever they decide to go with, to maximize the value of their case. The first one I would recommend, and these aren't in any particular order, is to you want to document the scene. Take photos of the vehicles involved, all the vehicles, not just yours. A lot of times my clients will just have pictures of their vehicle documenting the damage that was done to their vehicle. But you want to also take photos of the vehicles, the other vehicles that were involved, the vehicle that struck yours, and if you were pushed into another vehicle, that vehicle as well. And you want to do so before you actually move the vehicles, if at all possible. Obviously, you have to take safety into consideration, but if it's safe to take photos before moving the vehicles, I would do so.
What about videos now? Do you recommend people have video cameras in their car? I've seen a lot of people that do have those now.
That is one great thing that technology has helped with. Having video documentation of an accident right before it happened or is definitely more helpful. There's been situations where even the person behind my client had video documentation of how the accident happened.
Wow.
So they weren't even involved, but they had been recording, and I guess these cameras now record on a constant basis, and they had been recording right up until the accident occurred, and that provided some really good info.
Should we always call the police when involved in an accident?
That's the second thing I was going to mention. Calling the police and waiting for them to get there. Look, I know sometimes it can be a huge inconvenience when you call the police and they can't tell you exactly when they're going to show up on scene. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's more, but it's way less inconvenient if you leave the scene and then you have to deal with the at-fault party changing the story as to how the accident occurred. Happens all the time. If the police aren't there, inevitably the details of how the accident occurred changes, and now we have to determine, okay, who was really at fault, especially if it's a side impact collision. If it's not just a straight rear end collision, then it makes it a lot more difficult.
And that police report that you get, you're going to send that to the insurance company, obviously. Is that definitive, or do they sometimes, if the police say it was someone else's fault, but then that person saying it wasn't my fault, is that definitive with the insurance company?
It's not definitive, but it's way helpful. Obviously, it's not something that we can take into court and present as evidence because the police weren't there. But in the pre-litigation stages, it's very, very helpful, especially if all of the evidence gathered by the police point to the fact that that person was indeed at fault.
So to be clear, even if there is no injury, you still want us to call the police after an accident?
Absolutely. Okay. If there's no injury, a lot of times the injury doesn't present themselves right at the scene of the accident. So that goes to the third thing I was going to mention.
I don't know if I'm doing well in asking
you're
your
doing
questions
actually
or if
pretty
I'm
well.
screwing up.
You're jumping ahead. No, it's actually very important. And here in the state of Florida, we have 14 days to get seen by a doctor after being involved in an accident for your personal injury protection coverage to kick in and actually pay for your medical treatment. And in doing so, you definitely want to go out and get seen. And that's made way easier by just going to injuryassistancenetwork.com, shameless plug, which helps you to find quality personal injury medical providers that can be convenient for you to see and are vetted by a personal injury attorney, myself, to help you out.
So if I am injured, a couple of days later I start feeling pain in my back, I call Michael Mills, obviously, to handle my case. But what kind of doctor do I go see? Do I see my PCP, an old country doc? Do I go to a chiro?
I definitely would not recommend going to your primary care physician, PCP, primarily because most of them do not see car accident victims. It's a different system that they use, especially when it comes to billing, and most of them don't want to deal with the whole auto insurance portion of the billing for what they treat you for. And additionally, the recording of your symptoms and the medical records aren't quite the same. They don't document as detailed as we'd like in the personal injury realm.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of times when you're not badly injured, where you have to take an ambulance, it does take a few days to start feeling any pain.
Absolutely.
What are a common amount of days that you hear your clients say before they actually feel any real pain?
It's usually 2 to 3 days. Okay. Sometimes it could be longer. They'll start with headaches, or they'll wake up and their neck is a little stiff, or they just don't feel right. It's just something that's not right, or something that's off. It can take a while for that pain to actually show itself. But as long as you go, and we prefer the sooner you go, the better. But as long as you go within the 14 days, your personal injury protection coverage will kick in and pay for your medical bills at up to $10,000.
Got it. Number 4. I'm not going to jump ahead this
Number
time.
4 is we had call the police, document the scene, go to the medical provider, and you definitely want to contact your insurance company. Contact your insurance company and just give them a brief detail of how the accident happened. You want to also tell them that you plan on retaining counsel as well, so they don't go too far into everything regarding your injury. And you do not want to give them a recorded statement until you have retained counsel.
So do not give them a recorded statement.
Do not give them
a carrier.
No, you don't. You just want to report the accident so that you can get your claim number, which you'll need when you go to the doctor. Your attorney would also need that claim number so he can contact your insurance company and provide them with a letter of representation.
You know, my feeling is if you have been injured in an accident, you need to call an attorney right away. They're going to inevitably help make your case better. But all attorneys are not created equal. Let's be honest here. They're not. Michael Mills will oversee your case from the very, very beginning. Call him today. Also, he has this great referral network when it comes to medical providers. And at the end of the day, we want to get you money, sure, but we want to make you better. We want to get you healthy again. And through the Injury Assistance Network, he has access to some of the best medical providers that we have in the state of Florida, really.
Absolutely.
All right, what else? How do I make my case?
The last and final thing, call an attorney.
That's right. Call Michael Mills for
yes,
sure.
Absolutely. If not me, just somebody that is well-versed in the personal injury field and can make sure they maximize whatever settlement or take you into litigation as need be.
And sometimes I think clients will come in and they're angry because they got hit and they say, I want to sue. It's not always best to sue right out of the gate, is it?
No. You want to first go through the process because unless the other party isn't corresponding, they're not responding, and they're not doing anything, then sometimes you have to. But typically you want to go through the pre-litigation process, which gives you a chance to treat and lets the attorney know exactly what is going on as far as your permanent injury. Because in Florida, there has to be a permanent injury. There's a permanent injury threshold before you can actually sue. So you have to treat, get to maximum medical improvement, and based on the treatment, based on whatever injuries have been diagnosed, then we can proceed with litigation if need be.
How does that work? So I'm not going to just send a demand letter right out of the gate. I need to get better first, I guess. You said maximum medical improvement. What does that mean exactly?
Maximum medical improvement basically means you get to as close as you were prior to the accident happening, health-wise. So you may still be in pain, you may still have some injuries, but you and your doctor have determined that based on the treatment that you've gotten thus far, it may be 3 to 6 months, you're at a stage where you're not getting any better. You've kind of plateaued in the realm of improving on your condition.
And then how do I determine how much I'm going to demand from the insurance company to settle my case?
Well, that's something that your attorney will determine based on your injuries, based on the medical expenses that you've incurred, based on if there's any future lost wages or future medical expenses that you will incur. Based on all those things, your attorney typically, with your discussion, will come up with a number, and also based on the amount of the policy that's available. If it's a $10,000 policy, typically they're going to demand the policy limits. But if it's 100 or $1 million, depending on whatever the case is, then you look more at the actual injury and the treatment and everything else that has incurred as the process went on.
If you've been injured, Michael Mills should be your attorney. You do a great
I
job. Everyone that I ever talk to that you represent always just raves about what a great job you do, and really you're helping maximize their value. Michael, keep up the good work, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure to see. If you've been injured in an accident, I know that you see billboards and TV commercials. If you want a lawyer who's really going to take time with your case himself, individually, Michael Mills is your guy. Also, I love the Injury Assistance Network, what he created with doctors, lawyers, and you, the client, working together to get you better. Because at the end of the day, we want to get you healthy.
Absolutely.
No one wants to have an accident. Getting healthy is important. Here's what we'll do, quick break. When we return, how do you avoid probate as Behind the Law continues? Does credit card debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your credit card debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Is student loan debt holding you back? I'm Attorney Justin Clark. You may have the power to lower or even eliminate the payments that have you living paycheck to paycheck. Call me now for a free consultation or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your life. Welcome back. Very happy to be joined by attorney Tom Olsen. He's been here before, but I think what you do, Tom, is so important. We wanted to have you back. It's avoiding probate. But before we can avoid probate, let's figure out what probate actually is. What does that mean?
Probate is the process of getting an asset out of someone's name and into the names of the kids when they pass away. Most common examples of that are calls we get every week that say, Tom, my mom has passed away. All she owned was a home. Well, it would require a probate process to get that home out of mom's name and into the names of the kids. It's about a 3-month process.
Now, this is the first time we've ever had a dog on this set. We're happy to. Who is this, Tom?
This is Max. He's an office dog, and he comes to the office every day. The clients and staff love him.
I'm sure. How could they not?
People come into the law firm, they're a little bit nervous, but when they see Max approaching, he's got his tail wagging, people just really relax.
How old is Max?
Max is 5.
You're adorable. Hi.
Hi, Max.
Adorable dog. All right, so probate, it's kind of a bad word, I guess. A lot of people don't want to go through probate. Why do we not want to have to go through probate?
If you mention to somebody, I know I want you to avoid probate, they'll shake their head and they'll go, yeah, I know I want to avoid probate, even though they don't know. But the reason is probate's expensive. Florida statutes recommends an attorney fee and executor fee to be equal to 6% of the value of those assets that go through probate. So if mom dies and she owns a $300,000 home and a $100,000 CD times 6%, that's $24,000 to run those assets through probate. That's a lot of money. Plus, it takes a long time. So people understand that, and at the Olsen Law Group are all about helping people to avoid probate.
Got it. Well, let's talk about it now. How do I avoid probate? What can I do while I'm alive to make sure that my family, when something happens to me, doesn't have to deal with it?
So first of all, most married couples own everything jointly. That means when one of them passes away, the survivor automatically owns it all, no probate required. Probate comes into play when a second of them passes away or if they both happen to die in a common accident. So some kinds of assets by their nature don't go through probate, like IRAs, retirement accounts, life insurance. Anywhere where you get to name a beneficiary on the asset, you can assume that it's not going through probate as long as you've named a primary and a contingent beneficiary. Then cars, boats, vehicles don't go through probate. Then it's easy to avoid probate on bank accounts, checking, savings, CDs, money markets by keeping those accounts in your name only but making them POD, payable on death to your kids. If you make your bank accounts POD and you pass away, the only thing your children need to do is to show the bank or credit union your death certificate and they'll hand the money over to them, no probate required.
But if you don't have that, the banks will absolutely refuse to do so. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I've had clients over the years that say, Tom, my mom has died. I'm going to go down to the bank and show the bank her will and her death certificate, and they'll hand me over the money. When that situation, mom passes away, that bank account is locked up until a probate is done.
Got it. What can I do with real estate? How can I make sure real estate stays out of probate?
So we have a great tool for avoiding probate on real estate called a ladybird deed, also known as an enhanced life estate deed. It's a deed that my office prepares, and for a married couple, it says as long as one or both of them are alive, it is their home to do with as they please, no restrictions whatsoever. Within the body of the deed, it literally gives the names of who gets that piece of property when they pass away. I'm talking typically about children, so that when mom and dad pass away, the only thing the children need to do is record their death certificates in the public records, and that property will automatically belong to them. No headaches, no hassles, no probate.
And this is immediate.
Right away. As soon as they get a death certificate, it's done. We can do this on a home, a vacation condo, a vacant lot, a rental property, and we can do it even if there's a mortgage on the property.
Wow. I think that, look, if no matter how old you are, the best gift you could give to your family is to go in and talk to Tom and figure out how to avoid probate. I assure you, no one cares about money. We don't care about the money, we just miss mom. When there's money there, when someone dies, I assure you, people will fight over that money. Go talk to Tom Olsen, get you set up to where your family is not going to fight and take months and months through this probate process. It's so avoidable. It's so avoidable. What about a will? Most people should have a will, I guess, and how often should I look to update it?
So even when we're avoiding probate for people, we still have 4 standard documents. We have a will, we have a living will where you ask that you not be kept alive by machines, a health care surrogate, and a financial power of attorney. So if we take all steps necessary necessary to avoid probate. You still want to have a will, but what your will says doesn't matter, because what happens to your assets is not governed by your will. It's governed by how you filled out the beneficiary designations on your IRAs, retirement accounts, and life insurance, how you made your bank accounts POD, payable on death to your kids, and who you name as a beneficiary on your Ladybird deed.
So let's say that I have an IRA, and in my will it says everything goes to Makaila. But then on the IRA it says something else. What governs there? Is it what the IRA says or what the will says?
Yeah, the IRA beneficiary designation form would trump what your will says. What happens to it is based on that. Same thing with bank accounts that are POD. And by the way, to make your bank accounts POD, you don't do that with me. You don't do that in the will. You do that at the bank or the credit union or investment company. They'll give you a form to fill out.
So super easy, but you need to double
easy.
check all this stuff. I mean, things in life happen, things change, people get divorced, people break up. How often should we really look at all of this?
I would say every 4 years. When we do estate planning for people, they leave with an action plan. It's a one-page document, and on that action plan, it tells the client what we're doing for them, what we're asking them to do. Make their bank accounts POD, make sure there's a primary and contingent beneficiary on their IRAs and life insurance. And Justin, you are right. When I started practicing law 40 years ago, when mom and dad passed away, rare was a day when kids would argue with each other. These days, there's at least 50% chance they're going to be arguing with each other, and a good chance they're never going to talk to each other again. So when we do estate planning for people and we get all their affairs in order, we make things simple, easy, inexpensive for the kids when mom and dad pass away, there's going to be less chance for the kids to be arguing with each other.
And sometimes the kids are arguing as well when it comes to putting mom or dad in a nursing home, because nursing homes are expensive. They can take a lot of people's money. There are ways to avoid having to pay this time.
Yeah, what I want your listeners to know is most people, they hear it's that somebody's going to a nursing home, whether it's a friend or family member, a co-worker, and they throw up their hands and say, oh, $10,000 a month, there goes all their money, everything they've worked for all their life, down the drain. What I want your listeners to know is that there are Medicaid compliant tools to protect their life savings from nursing homes, and they just need to be aware of that. If somebody's going to a nursing home, sit down and talk to the Olsen Law Group in Orlando. We know how to protect their assets across the board.
Got it. Is this something that you need to start working on when you're a little bit younger? When do I start really thinking about this?
So we can do pre-planning to protect your life savings from nursing homes, but we can also do last-minute planning. So if you came to us and said, my mom's going to a nursing home a week from now, we can still get it done. But we also have what's called a Medicaid assessment, that if you're curious that, hey, you own these assets and you're a married couple, you want to know what to do, you want to be able to tell your kids what to do, we can do a Medicaid assessment, which we call a blueprint, so that you can tell your kids, hey, if I ever have to go to a nursing home, here's my Medicaid assessment, you now know what to do.
You're not just on TV here with me right now, you also have 2 radio shows every weekend. Tell me about the shows.
So Olsen on Law is the longest running legal radio show in America, 35 years. We're heard every Saturday morning at 10, every Sunday morning at 11 on WDBO and WFLA. So I've been answering legal questions for people on the radio for a long, long time, Justin.
I get the sense you really enjoy that.
I love doing radio. It wouldn't work otherwise.
Unbelievable. If you have any questions at all for Tom, it's 321-282-1055. The number is on the screen. Call us right now. Literally right when the show's over, he is happy to take your calls. You can come in, free consultation, call him for a free consultation. Look, Tom, you've seen it so many times, preventable legal expenses, and all that they had to do was come see you for 30 minutes and avoid going through probate. But I've also seen so many people who have spent so much of their life savings paying for these nursing homes when they simply don't have to.
Exactly.
How do I have that talk real quick with my mom or dad when I say, look, you're getting a little bit older, we need to prepare? How do I have that talk?
Well, first of all, just mention them, Mom and Dad. I know you want to avoid probate when you pass away. There are steps that you can take to get that done, and usually Mom and Dad are also interested in passing on as much of their wealth as they can to you and their children without any of it being eaten up by probate and without losing it all through a nursing home. And once they hear those words, they understand, they get it. They're on your side. They want the same thing you do. And just sit down with the Olsen Law Group in Orlando. We can help them accomplish accomplish both of those things.
And of course, the beautiful, awesome dog as well will be there. Tom,
Max
it's always
will
a
be there.
pleasure to see you, buddy. Hope to see you here soon. Any questions at all? 321-282-1055. We'll be right back to wrap it up with What Did We Learn? Our good buddy Greg Mann is here, property manager, the best in the business, I assure you. Greg, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It scares me a little bit because there are some people still out there who own real estate, who rent it out, and they want to do it themselves. I never advise that whatsoever because, and you've seen it, Greg, people who rent houses out to someone else and decide they want to do self-help evictions, they can get in trouble legally for that.
Yeah, well, first of all, they're not professionals, so they don't know what they're doing. And as you would know better than most people, if you don't know what you're doing and you're not a professional, don't do it. So avoid it. Or if you self-manage and you need to do an eviction, go to an attorney.
Even that aside, though, anyone who owns real estate that they're renting out really should have a property manager such as yourself. What are all the things that you do to make life easier for me, the landlord?
From start to finish, we rent the house out, we collect the rent, we send it to you, we maintain the house. Everything's just one package. It's simple.
It is. And vendors, you know so many vendors. You make life easier for me, the landlord, because you have those connections already.
We do, but we actually really screen our vendors really well. You know, so every vendor that works with us, licensed and insured, and we turn vendors down left, right, and center. But you know, we're always looking for good vendors too.
And wouldn't you say? Some people say, I'm going to rent it myself because I don't want to pay Greg. I don't want to pay a property manager. But wouldn't you say you actually save the landlord money over time because of your relationship with these vendors?
Absolutely, we save money. Not only do we save money with the vendors, we save time, which you can never get back.
And 2 a.m. phone calls, I'm not getting those.
No, you won't. I get those.
Literally, as the property owner, I just buy the property and turn everything over to you and collect checks. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's like winning the lottery every single day.
If you own real, thank you, Greg, as always. We always appreciate your insight. If you own real estate that you're renting out and you're handling it yourself, it's not a good idea. You can get yourself into trouble and it's going to cost you money. Call Greg Mann today. More Behind the Law is just ahead.
Managing your investment property is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Sign up at GoRent123.com. 2. Let Greater Orlando Realty handle all of the management of your property. 3. Sit back and count your money. Visit GoRent123.com today.
Every week on Behind the Law, we wrap it up with What Did We Learn? Makaila, what did you learn today?
I learned that probate's just like really not good.
Bad word. Probate is a bad word.
Horrible word.
Yeah.
The P word.
You know what I learned is even if you just have a fender bender, you should call the police. I really didn't know that. I thought if everything was fine, you just kind of go off on your own merry way. But Michael Mills was very, very clear that you should always call the police after an accident.
Yeah, it makes sense, honestly, if you
And
think
then
about it.
nursing homes, $10,000 a month. I mean, people are spending their life savings to pay for mom and dad in the nursing home when it can be avoided. I mean, it can be avoided. You don't have to pay anything if you set up things the right way.
Yeah, I guess, starting early is important.
I guess so. Maybe a little too young you are right now.
I mean, maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not. Excellent job, Makaila, as always. Keep up the great work. Very thanks to our crew here. Great job, as always. Most importantly, thank you for joining us every week for Behind the Law. See you again next week for more Behind the Law. Having debt can leave you feeling helpless. I'm attorney Justin Clark. Filing for bankruptcy may give you the power to lower or even eliminate the payments that have you living paycheck to paycheck. Call me now for a free consultation or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your life.
Free yourself of the stress of investment property management. Visit GoRent123.com today.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.